Hello and welcome to the library's YouTube channel. I'm Sonia.
And I'm Araceli.
And today we're going to be doing a book haul over the Florida Teen Reads Book Award choices for 2020-2021. And first we're going to talk a little bit about what the Florida Teen Reads are, but if you stick around to the end of the video, we're going to have a surprise announcement. So the Florida Teen Reads program is hosted by FAME, which is the Florida Association of Media and Educators. And they basically hold the Sunshine State Reader Awards that you might be familiar with on the elementary levels, but this is the teen version. So these are young adult titles, definitely more mature content, and they tend to touch more on societal issues. But these are 15 titles that are chosen every year, and teens read the titles and then can nominate a winner to be the Teen Read Book of the Year in March. So today we're going to be going over those 15 titles since we have the entire collection here at the library.
So our first book is Stormwind Fury by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is billed as a contemporary romance fantasy, which is a lot in one. And it is about Trinity, who is a girl who is losing her sight and realizes that she has the ability to communicate with the dead. And she lives on a compound guarded by shape-shifting gargoyles, which are known as wardens. And the story really picks up when a group of other wardens come and warn her that there are demons that are going to come after her. And I think it's about figuring out why the demons are coming after her and where the story goes from there. So it sounds really good.
Yeah, it's a lot in one story, but then there's like a boy that visits and she teams up with him. So definitely romance, definitely fantasy. If you like any of those, pick this up. So our next book is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. This book follows a girl named Sophia who has just been through a really brutal breakup. And it's over the Christmas holiday break that happened. So her family gets together and decides that they're going to find her perfect match. So they send her on a bunch of blind dates. And it seems really funny, contemporary, romance, definitely cute for the holidays. So if you like that, pick that one up.
So our next book is You'd Be Mine by Erin Hahn, which is about Annie Mathers and Clay Coolidge, who are both country music stars, and they team up to go on a summer tour together because Clay is kind of a bad boy and he needs to get his press up, and so he teams up with the country sweetheart Annie Mathers to go on a tour together, and it's about how they interact and the fandom that gets involved and whether they develop a romance or not. And it reminded me a lot of Nashville, if you guys have seen that show, which is basically about country music stars and their interactions with each other.
And this book seems like it focuses more on the fans too, because the fans really want them to get together. And that's supposed to be like a major plot point in this book.
So if that sounds like something you'd want to read, and if you like contemporaries, then this is probably the one for you.
So our next book is Aurora Rising by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This book takes place in the year 2380. It's set in space, definitely sci-fi fantasy type of novel. But it's about a group of cadets who have just graduated from the Aurora Academy. It focuses on Tyler Jones, who seems like he might have been like the perfect student because he's all set to captain his perfect team on a mission. However, something happens and he ends up with this group of kind of ragtag misfit cadets, and that's who he has to take on his mission to essentially stop a war from happening in space. And it also turns out that the thing that might have happened, which I'm not entirely sure, is that he discovered a girl who was in cryosleep, and her name is Aurora, hence the title, and she is somehow the cause of him ending up with this ragtag team. So there's definitely a little bit of a mystery on what's going on with her, but it's also definitely sci-fi with trying to stop this intergalactic war and just all of these space elements. So.
And another series by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff is Illuminae, so if you've read that one and liked it, I would recommend this one.
So yeah, if you like sci-fi fantasy and you like the Illuminae series or anything that was kind of like that, definitely pick this one up. It seems like it's going to be good, and I've definitely heard a lot of good things about it. The second one just came out, so definitely a lot of book buzz.
So our next book is The Gracier by Kim Liggett, which appears to be more of a literary book and a little bit of a commentary on our society and where it could be headed. But it is about a misogynistic society where when girls turn 16, they are sent out of the village to have their Gracier, which is when they're supposed to release their magic. I don't know if that's like actual magic that they have in this society or if it's just like a phrase they use. But the reason they're sent out to release their magic is that when they come back from that year, they're supposed to be married off and live their domestic life with their partners. And our protagonist in this story is Heroine, who has been dreading it since she found out about it. And the reason she's been dreading it is because a lot of the girls either don't come back or don't come back the same. There is brutalities inflicted on them. They don't know if it's the other girls or if it's from poachers that are said to be out there trying to capture them and do something to them.
Or to capture their magic.
Yeah. So it is about her and her coming to the age and going out and figuring out what's happening and whether or not she survives her own Gracier. It's billed as like a little bit of Hunger Games and Lord of the Flies-y, so a little bit brutal and graphic, so it might be a little mature. So if that's something you're interested in, then I would pick this one up.
So the next book is called The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. This book is billed as a kind of dark fairy tale, like a horror story meets old fairy tale. But this book is about Rin, who is the gravedigger for her town. It's what her father was, and she takes over when he goes off into the woods one day and doesn't return. So she takes it over to help support her family, and she also takes over the duty of getting rid of the bone houses. So the bone houses are these bodies that kind of rise up. The dead don't always stay dead in this town. So she also took over the duty of putting these bone houses back to rest. And usually the bone houses aren't aggressive, but something has been happening that's making them show up more often and be more aggressive and actually attack people. So Rin takes it upon herself to figure out what's going on and set them all to rest. But this boy shows up named Ellis. He's a stranger from outside the village, and it's unclear if he's causing this to happen since he's an outsider. But they team up together, Rin and Ellis, to figure out what's going on in the town and end up stumbling upon a decades-old curse. So it's definitely a little bit of an adventure, but more mystery, horror story, fairy tale. So if that sounds intriguing at all, definitely pick this one up.
So our next book is Killing November by Adriana Mather, which is about November, who is a teenage girl who suddenly wakes up and finds herself in a secluded boarding school with no technology, no electricity, and no communication with the outside world.
Doesn't know how she got there.
Yeah. It sounds terrifying, but it turns out to be a school for assassins or something like that, where they're trained on how to use a knife, poisons, and all that. And then to make matters worse, suddenly a student winds up dead, and all signs point to November being the murderer. So it's about her journey of discovering how she got there and why she's there, and also trying to clear her name for a murder she didn't commit. And it sounds very intense.
It sounds, yeah, it definitely sounds intense, because it also mentions that she doesn't know who to trust, because it's a very eye for an eye type punishment. It's encouraged. There's no one keeping these people in line. They're being trained to be assassins. So she's not who to trust. So it sounds like a really good mystery too.
Yes, it does. So if that's something you're interested in, I would pick this one up.
So our next book is called Heroine by Mindy McGinnis. And this book comes with a warning that it deals with some touchy subject matter. But this book follows Mickey, who is a star athlete at her school. But unfortunately, she's in a car accident and has to have surgery, and there's kind of lingering pain, so she's prescribed painkillers. Unfortunately, she's really trying to get back into her sport, so she's just trying to get through the pain, so she keeps taking the painkillers, and it kind of just escalates from there. And she ends up finding herself in this world that it wasn't even on her radar before, because she's the star athlete and the good student, and now all of a sudden she's addicted to drugs and trying to find more ways to kind of keep that feeling, that high going. So this book seems like it's a really good portrayal of how that type of situation can happen to anyone, and about her journey on trying to come out of it and deal with it as it's happening. So if you're interested in books that touch on those topics, or that does it in a way that's accessible to young adult readers, I would definitely pick this one up.
Our next book is Slay by Brittany Morris, which follows Kira Johnson, who is the creator of Slay, which is a virtual reality online multiplayer game, which is in a Black Panther style. And it is more of an underground game, and it is mainly used by Black players who feel like it's kind of a safe place for them. But it comes to popular attention when a murder happens that involves the game in some way. And because of that, more white players realize this game exists, and some of them find fault in it and feel like it is anti-white. And one of these players decides that they want to try to sue her, and so Kira takes matters into her own hands and challenges the player to an in-game winner-takes-all battle. And so I think it is about following that conflict, and also the topics that are brought to light when the game is brought to light to the masses.
So this book is pretty relevant given certain societal situations that are going on right now, and it definitely touches on race in a way that I feel like a lot of books haven't, because it talks about race from the other side, and if there is a safe space where minorities come together, does that mean if it's restricted to that race that it's also being reverse racism? So it's definitely touching on a lot of sensitive things and deals with sensitive issues, but I think that just makes it more relevant given what's happening. So if you're interested in either books about societal issues that are going on now, or even just books about gamings, or books about just that feature minority or diverse characters and authors, definitely pick this one up. So our next book is Where I End and You Begin by Preston Norton. This book seems like it's going to be really funny. It's about two people named Ezra and a girl named Winona, who end up switching bodies. There's a lunar eclipse and something happens that makes them switch bodies, but they keep doing it. So every day at random times they switch into the other person's body and back again. And they can't control it. So it definitely leads to like some funny situations. But what adds to this is that it also comes to light that they each have a crush on the other person's best friend, and decide to use these opportunities to help the one person get with the other person. So it's a little bit of confusion
at all.
It's definitely confusing, but it seems like it's going to be funny. It seems like a light kind of contemporary read.
And also, if your favorite movie is Freaky Friday, this might be a good read for you, because it sounds like it has a lot of similar themes.
Yeah, so if you like just funny, contemporary, light-hearted reads, I'm thinking that's where this is going. So definitely pick this up.
So our next book is Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Rebay, which follows Jay, who is a high school student who has everything planned out. He seems like he's a perfect student, and things get slightly derailed when he finds out that his cousin June, who he was close to when he was younger, has been murdered and was somehow involved with the Philippine president's war on drugs. And that doesn't sit well with Jay, because he doesn't remember his cousin being that kind of person who would be involved with that. And so he decides to go over to the Philippines and investigate his cousin's death. And it's about his journey doing that, and what he finds out, and what he comes to find out about himself. And it sounds like it's going to be a really good contemporary / thriller mystery coming of age type book.
And there's a lot of focus on Filipino culture as well, so it's definitely a diverse read. So if you're looking for more of that or mysteries in general, I think it'd be a great book for that. Our next book is Crown of Coral and Pearl by Mara Rutherford. This book follows the two twins named Noor and Zadie, who live in the town of Valencia, and for generations, the most beautiful girl in the town was chosen to marry the prince. So everyone expects that to be Zadie because Noor had been scarred in a previous accident, but unfortunately something happens to Zadie and Noor ends up taking her place. So she ends up marrying the prince, and it's not a love marriage. So when she arrives at the palace, she ends up in a world that she's unfamiliar with. There's court and political intrigue and scheming, and turns out that someone might have murdered the previous queen. So she's kind of just in this new world that she's unfamiliar with that might actually be dangerous as well. She also ends up becoming close to the cousin of the prince, and so that adds another element of secrecy and danger in this new world that she's in. But it definitely sounds like something you should pick up if you like historical fictions or
High fantasy
stuff along those lines.
So our next book is Jackpot by Nick Stone, which is about Rico, who is a high school student who works at a gas station. And she finds out one day that she sold a winning lottery ticket to one of her clients that comes into the gas station, but that person has not claimed their lottery ticket yet, and so she cannot get paid her percent until that person claims their ticket. And so she takes it upon herself, and she teams up with a popular high school classmate named Zane, who is kind of different from her, and they don't really get along, but it's about them coming together to try to track down the person who bought this ticket and help them claim it so that Rico can get that money that she's due. And I think it's also about how their relationship, hers and Zane's, develops and what happens between that. And a little bit also, since it is the author who wrote Dear Martin, I think it will also touch a little bit on race issues. I don't know if that's going to be a very prominent part of the book, but I'm sure that it will touch on that and the divide between the two neighborhoods that exist there. So if that's something that interests you, or if you like buddy comedy type stories, I think this will be one to pick up.
So this next book is When We Were Lost by Kevin Wignall. This book follows Tom Calloway, who's in high school and he's a bit of a loner, but he ends up on a field trip to Costa Rica with his class. He doesn't want to go, he was forced to go, and unfortunately he shouldn't have gone because the plane crashes. So now they're in the jungles of Costa Rica, and none of the teachers or anyone who was supervisor ends up surviving. So it's just a group of kids who are now in the jungle and need to survive, and they're all, I think, going to turn on each other. I mean, it definitely sounds like Lord of the Flies survival type of book.
So if you're a fan of Lost or the Discovery Kids show, I think was called Flight 66 Down, it's probably going to be a similar vein to that. It seems like it's just about them trying to survive on this island with no help from anyone.
So yeah, so if you like either Lost, the TV show, or if you liked Hatchet, so any of the survival type of books, but also that kind of touch on relationships among teens and how people need to team together or end up turning on each other, definitely pick this one up because it seems like it's going to be really interesting.
So our next book is called Girls with Sharp Sticks, and it's by Suzanne Young, and it is about a elite boarding school for young girls, and it's called Innovations Academy, and it is a bit of a weird school because it's kind of like training young women on how to be proper and how to respect men and how to let them take the lead and just everything like that. All their teachers are men. There is one woman, and it's just about that world, and it follows Mina, who is one of the students there, and her, I think, journey of discovering that maybe, hey, this isn't quite right. And so it sounds really interesting, and it sounds like it's going to be about the world that this is creating and society's expectations of women and how things might need to change.
And it definitely seems a bit intense because the summary mentions impulse control therapy that is used on the girls when they're having pesky negative thoughts. And it doesn't teach them like math or science or anything like that. So it's kind of a intense, severe transition to like fit this expectation. So it definitely has dystopian vibes or kind of revolutionary. If you like those books where the teens are trying to figure out what's going on and those in control and authority figures aren't what they seem, those types of mysteries, definitely pick this one up.
So that was all the books on the Florida Teens Read 2020 to 2021 list, which are the nominees. If you read at least 3 of them, then you can vote at the end of the school year for your favorite to find out who wins for the Florida Teens Read pick. So now we're just going to have a quick little announcement. So the Okeechobee County Library has decided to start a young adult book club. It's going to be online, so it's going to be virtual. It's going to be a live discussion of the book that we read each month. And we're starting out with some picks from the Florida Teens Read list. So we're going to start out with Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. So we are going to be discussing this Thursday, August 27th at 4 p.m. here on our YouTube channel. It's going to be a live video, and you are encouraged to comment in and ask questions. And any students who are going to high school who need community service, if you participate and ask a question, we are giving 30 minutes of community service for that. And then after we post the live video, anyone who comments within that first week of it being posted, we're going to host a random prize drawing.
So the community service is for students, but the young adult book club, since so many ages and readers read young adult, it's open to anyone. So the prize is available for anyone, but the community service is just for high school students.
And so this is our first pick, but each month during the book club at the end, we will announce the next month's pick so that you have time to read it.
So that was it for the Florida Teen Reads book haul. But if you like these videos and want to see more of them, please like and subscribe to our channel, and definitely leave suggestions in the comments of more things that you would like to see.